Well, hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Conversations. Today, I want to talk to you about why we need fewer influencers and more leaders, specifically in the church. I think there is a clear delineation, in my opinion, between an influencer and a leader. I do think some leaders, obviously, you have influence. I do think there is a distinct difference between having influence and striving to be an influencer. And there is a reality to being an influencer. It is a job, it is a real thing. It's in 2025, like it's been a thing. But to the reality, and just again, caveat, this is my opinion, this is my observations. I am a Gen Z pastor, so I get it. I'm just having my opinions. I've been doing church for roughly 12 years, building, serving, leading, pastoring. And again, this is just my opinion and that I'm submitting to you, my friends, my audience. And I'm just thankful for each and every one of you. And I hope that you and I can continue to grow together and learn. But I just want to give you 8 thoughts that really separates this concept between an influencer and a leader, specifically in the church. But again, I do think it applies to anything. And if you are somebody who is striving to acquire influence in the macro level, I think it's just a scary place to live, because really the core thesis when around this concept is, man, if you live for approval, you will die from rejection. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for your life. So I'm going to give you 8 thoughts why I think we need fewer influencers and more leaders. Number 1, influencers chase followers, leaders build leaders. In the church, if you've been around, you understand this core concept of the reality is there are people who simply just want followers. They spend their whole life understanding that if I can get more people around me, I will be more successful. To me, that contradicts the core principle of being a leader. Influencers measure success by numbers, clout, and reach. Leaders measure success by how many people they've raised up to carry the mission. And that's just a clear delineation. The goal of a leader is not to acquire more followers, it's to build more leaders. And you'd be surprised, I've had so many interactions with people who've never built a single leader. And what I mean by build a leader, I mean somebody who they saw potential in, they built them up, they modeled what it meant like to be a leader and to continue to push them. And at some point, they got better than them and they reproduced themselves. They multiplied themselves, because the goal isn't more fans, it's more disciples who become leaders. So there is just the black and white. If you're chasing followers, you want to be an influencer. If you're building leaders, you're a leader. Number 2, influencers curate an image, leaders cultivate people. Influencers polish a brand, leaders get their hands dirty developing people. You'd be surprised how many people have never actually seen gold in people because they're afraid to get dirty. And you got to dig to get gold. You got to get dirty. And I've just seen, man, a lot of people don't want to get dirty. They don't want to get gritty. They don't want to have confrontational conversations. But the church doesn't need more aesthetics. It needs shepherds who care about souls, not selfies. Image management is one of my least favorite things on the planet. And there's a difference between PR and image management. I work in the actual business world. We have a PR department at the company I work for. That is different than you distorting and curating an image. Because what you'll end up doing is you'll start to develop a fake version of yourself that you actually believe is yourself. And to me, that is not healthy, but it's also, people will start to follow an altered version of yourself. And what you'll find is that will end up who you become. And that's actually not healthy whatsoever, because now you're contradicting God's design for you. God's designed you in a specific way to use you in that way. He wouldn't design you one way for him to use you in a different way. So Influencers curate an image, leaders cultivate people. Number 3, influencers sell themselves, leaders die to themselves. The influencer mindset is build my platform, sell my name. A leader lays down their life for the flock. A pastor's calling is not self-promotion, it's self-denial. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just get so sick and tired of them. The image of the brand of the church is a person, and it's not Jesus. That's not good. You should not be the face of a brand. You're not a brand, you're a servant. You really aren't. You're not a brand, you're a person. And anytime someone's ever tried to label me in those type of titles or words, I go, no, I'm a human being. Just because I carry a title or have a platform, that does not mean I am the platform. I am a human being. So influencers, they're selling stuff, and that's their job. I'm not bagging on influencers, by the way. I'm bagging on pastors who want to be that, because that's the difference. I have friends who are influencers, and they sell products, and they have conviction behind the products that they advocate for. That's amazing. I follow people that have good fashion, and they like ideas, and they're influencers, and they help me make decisions on what I wear or where I go to eat, and that's fine, and that's amazing. And you gotta be careful if you are a pastor, because you're not an influencer. Influencers thrive on platforms. Leaders thrive in trenches. An influencer can go viral in a moment, but can they disciple somebody through addiction, betrayal, or suffering? Real pastors aren't just about sermons, they walk through the trenches with people. I remember when I was in Bible college and I had a conversation with my pastor, and he said this to me, and it stuck with me because it reframed my priorities, or reframed what I was trying to learn from the people that I was submitted to. He said anybody can teach somebody about scripture educationally. It takes a specific type of leader to sit down with somebody and have a conversation. And that, my friend, is a leader. That is somebody who has emotional awareness, and they know how to have a conversation with somebody they don't agree with. They know how to have a pastoral counseling session with a couple. They know how to pray over somebody. That you can't learn in a classroom. You got to learn through service, and you cannot think about yourself and serve somebody at the same time. It's just, you cannot thrive off of a platform. Having a platform and being a platform are two very distinctly different things. Man, if you want to have a platform, be an influencer. If you want to be a platform, if you want people to stand on your shoulders, be a leader. These real pastors you're not just about sermons, you're about people. The core principle of writing a message is for people. And if you're writing it for Instagram, it's not a good idea. So you got to walk through trenches with people. Number 5, influencers are transactional. Leaders are transformational. Influencers treat people like leverage for reach. Leaders see people as sons and daughters to be discipled and empowered. So this is the difference. Influence extracts, leadership invests. If you have to calculate your way into a relationship, that's toxic and manipulative. If you have to actually think about the person and simply invest in them, knowing there might not be a return, you're a leader. Influencers, and that's the thing, that's their job. And again, you got to give credit where credit is due. That's what they do. They help people make decisions. They influence a decision. And again, you can be a leader and have influence. I'm not saying those two things are counterintuitive. Just, again, it's more about your heart posture. Leaders see people as sons and daughters to be discipled. If you're not discipling somebody in the church, you're not a leader, and you're definitely not a pastor. I'm not saying discipling the crowd, not on a Sunday morning. I'm saying discipling the core. You're discipling 3. You're discipling 5. You're discipling 1. That would be my first question to anyone listening to this podcast who says that they want to be a pastor or they want to start a church. Okay, tell me about one person you're actively discipling. So influencers are transactional, leaders are transformational. Number 6, influencers are addicted to applause, leaders are anchored in assignment. If the crowd loves them, influencers feel strong. If the crowd turns, they fall apart. Again, I work in this space. I work with influencers every single day for the past 5 years. I have literally worked with influencers and content creators, and I love them. And you can always tell the difference of the ones who are, that is their job, and people who just like creating, because those are very two different things. The people who actually do it for their job, you got to think about it. It's what puts food on their table. So they're more calculated, they're more specific, they're more salesy because they're trying to reach conversions. Because again, if the crowd loves them, they feel great. And their business is growing because that's what it is. It is a business, which I love. I love that. I love that people can start businesses because they influence people. With that being said, leaders don't live for the crowd. They live from conviction and calling. See, applause fades, assignments don't. And the people who don't actually have an assignment, you can tell because, again, if you live for approval, you'll die from rejection. And you got to get to a point where you understand this. And it's so funny. I've had this happen multiple times. You preach and you get somebody who is so thankful. And man, Pastor, you just preached the house down. 5 minutes later, somebody's ripping your face off. That was heresy. I hated it. You're wrong. I disagree. And you got to be okay with both because they're human beings and they have their opinions, and you got to be able to receive both and listen. But at the end of the day, you're not getting to my heart. You're not getting to my assignment because I know what our family's assigned to. I know what our calling is. You can't get to that because we're anchored. I'm not addicted to applause. Number 7, influencers talk at people. Leaders walk with people. You can post clips, but if you don't sit across from somebody, hear their story, and walk with them, you're not pastoring. Shepherds actually smell like sheep because they're with them. That is the easiest description. Do you smell like sheep or not? And I don't know if you know this. I've never been around real sheep in my life, maybe at a petting zoo or something. They don't smell good. And it's the same principle when I say if you want to find gold, you got to get dirty. If you want to be around sheep, you're going to smell. And that's good because what you're doing is you're developing people and you're doing what you're called to be doing. Influencers talk at people. You can always tell when somebody knows their audience because they're actually talking to one person. They're not talking to 1,000. They're talking to one person. When I prepare my messages, I'm thinking about leaders. I'm thinking about lost people. So I'm writing my messages. When I'm writing these podcasts, I'm thinking about leaders and I'm thinking about lost people. I want to recalibrate people's hearts and I want to reach specific people because I'm actually assigned and called to a specific people, not just the applause or just random. I'm not talking at people. I'm talking with people. And lastly, influencers fade when the trend dies. Leaders multiply when the time comes. Algorithms change, followers scroll on, but leaders leave a legacy because they build people who build people. Influence evaporates, leadership multiplies. The algorithms change, man. Platforms change. When I started creating content, I was creating content in middle school. TikTok didn't exist. YouTube exists. YouTube Shorts didn't. So you just have to be people that are aware that all that's going to change. I'm telling you, in the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to look so different. And I'm not called to just build platforms and use it for what it is. It's a tool. It's a tool to reach and love people 1,000%. And it is not your sole calling if you are a pastor. Here's the bottom line. The church doesn't need another celebrity with a viral soundbite. We need leaders who bleed, sweat, and sacrifice to raise up other leaders. I want you right now to take inventory. Turn around. Turn around and ask yourself, is anyone actually following me? Because again, if you want to be an influencer, you got to have followers and you got to have engagement. You'll never have a brand deal if you don't have those things. If you want to be a pastor, if you want to be a leader, turn around and ask yourself, how many leaders have I built? How many disciples have I built? And that will tell you whether you're doing a good job or not. I want to read through these points again. I appreciate each and every one of you. Number 1, influencers chase followers. Leaders build leaders. Number 2, influencers curate an image, leaders cultivate people. Number 3, influencers sell themselves, leaders die to themselves. Number 4, influencers thrive on platforms, leaders thrive in trenches. Number 5, influencers are transactional, leaders are transformational. Number 6, influencers are addicted to applause, leaders are anchored in assignment. Number 7, influencers talk at people, leaders walk with people. Number 8, influencers fade when the trend dies, leaders multiply when the time comes. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next week.